let's start with someone who is a non-believer, okay? Someone who's a non-believer, okay? They don't believe in God. Is this class for them? Well, it's for them, but it's not going to get too far, because if you don't believe in God, who's revealing themselves at Sinai, right? So we understand we're beginning this class with another premise, and that is that there's a God. And I'm assuming that everyone in this room believes there's a God. For some reason I have that assumption, okay? And it's more than an assumption. So we know that we have to have that as a premise, number one. Number two, someone may say, well, I'm not really ready for this whole class and this whole discussion here. I don't even want to go there. You know why? Because sometimes I'd rather not find out whether God gave the Torah at Sinai or not. I'd rather not find out if God actually revealed himself to the Jewish people at Sinai. Because that's going to create what we call a cognitive dissonance, which means my mind is going to understand something and my heart's going to want something else, and I'm going to be pulled, and my life is going to be ruined, right? Like the story I told you about the rabbi with the long beard, and someone asked him when he was like 98 years old, when he goes to sleep, if he keeps the beard above the blanket or below the blanket, and then he can never fall asleep again, right? Because he got into bed and he's trying to figure out, it's not comfortable this way, not comfortable this way. He never thought about it before, right? So don't bring up this whole subject and then start, telling, demonstrating something to me one way, and then I see that there are certain things in my life aren't consistent with that. So and I would say that to some extent this is true for me, because I don't think anyone is 100% consistent or nearly close to 100% consistent and aligned with the Torah, right? However, I think it's important for us to know that leading a Jewish life is not about being right or doing right all the time. I mean, it would be nice, but I think there's hardly a person who can say that, right? But it is about first having an honest discussion and then saying, okay, let me see, I'm going to do my best with this, right? Sort of like the Hanukkah menorah, right? How does the Hanukkah menorah work? You light one the first night, two the second night, three the third night. You actually continuously grow in holiness. That's what our life should be looking like. No one's expecting that their life should be all 8 candles when they're 20 years old, or 50 years old, or 70 years old, or 80 years old. Life is a process. And so we don't need to be, I'm encouraging you not to be concerned about any cognitive dissonance. It's fine to understand one thing and see areas in your life which are different. That's fine. Every single one of us has that in our lives. It doesn't make us a hypocrite. It makes us a human being that's growing. That's all it makes us. And that's the way we should be. Let's say someone says, I'm a major believer. And so I'm not interested in this whole discussion. I just believe. I don't need proof. I don't need evidence. I don't need this whole sophisticated way of demonstrating that the Torah was or wasn't given by God, or God did or didn't reveal himself. I just believe it. So that's a beautiful thing. However, that's a little bit short for a Jew, because God did give us a brain and intelligence, and God actually wants us to internalize. And when we understand something, we internalize things in a different way, as much as we can, understand as much as we can about the Torah and about God. So we actually have an obligation to understand as much as we can, even if we already have the belief. So it's not enough to just believe. Okay? Blind faith is not the Jewish way. We have blind faith that rides on a lot of understanding, but it's not just blind faith that rides the Jewish life. Lastly, there may be someone who is what we're going to call a beauty seeker. Interesting name. But a beauty seeker is someone who looks for meaningfulness and beauty, nice messages, relevant ideas that we can draw out of the Torah, but not necessarily, being so concerned about the Torah in any very deep way, but just what I can draw out of it for myself and my own life. Now, the challenge with being a beauty seeker is that what ends up happening is, if someone shows us beauty is somewhere else in the world or in another body of thought, then we will simply drop what the Torah has to offer and go somewhere else. And in some respects, that's done quite commonly. Jews are seekers, I think, and we seek. And sometimes, a lot of Jews somehow ended up in India. They usually make it back, but somehow they end up in India for some time, right? And they're looking for meaning, and they end up, studying other things, Eastern religions or whatever it is. And so it's important for us to understand how deeply anchored and rooted the Torah is with the primal source of all existence, right, with God, so that we don't look at the Torah as just a possibility. And it's something that can just, is a nice book that I can turn to enhance my life, but to see it as something much more valuable than that. And that's why this discussion would be very important. Okay?